System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' in the city left.
Today is Monday, November 11th. My name is Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. I have with me Emoja Lil Tanky Sumler and Keita the Muscle, as you can see, the ghost in the shell, but does have a fancy new so you can follow them. My good friends, hello, how are you doing? And yeah, what's up?
Man, I'm still bathing, you know what I'm saying, in the liberal tears. My God. Oh, just because she cried on the internet and it's kind of her thing, it doesn't make her a shit lip. Get the fuck out of me. I'm fine, man. I'm about as good as I get.
All right. Keita, how are you doing? How's everything?
Everything is as it was before the election. It's not like the stress or the work stopped. But I'm excited to be here with y'all.
Awesome. Let's get started on this. You can see the title. You know what we're about. We're going to put this thing to bed. Our final say here for, the final nail in the coffin for the Harris-Walz campaign. This is the autopsy of that. So I want to talk a little bit about this because this has been coming out really big. So obviously we know Kamala lost. Yes, what were you about to say?
Yes, before we even get a minute in, I just would like to say for the record, fuck DJT, right? Don't misconstrue. Fuck DJT. Carry on.
All right, subliminals right there. If you know, you know. I want to talk a little bit about the Harris campaign funds. She raised $1 billion in 3 months. That was incredible, right? Wow. We always talk about money in politics and how important that is. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that she spent the money on. The first thing here is $450,000 a day for a ad on the Sphere. Do you guys remember the Sphere? This little thing. I don't know if you can see it. It's in Las Vegas. Very fancy. It's $450,000 that they spent per day on here. You also have these celebrity endorsements. Now, we don't know exactly how much some of those cost, but we know that they were prevalent. We saw all kind of different things, including the Harris staffers not getting paid, still not receiving their checks. We see the Harris campaign is now $20 million in debt. And you still have Democrats out here saying she ran the perfect campaign. She's perfect. Flawless campaign. I want to ask y'all your thoughts. I'll start with you, Emoja. Your thoughts on sort of the Harris campaign in general and just what happened to the money?
I mean, the money is what the money is. That the money is a Ponzi scheme. So, I mean, that'll be a whole nother question. We'll definitely get into that. But like, when you ask what happened, when I'm hearing throughout the city that even people like Bill Kristol, who are horrible neocons, right, got us involved, in essentially is a Fox News legend, you know what I'm saying? Got us involved with the Iraq war, huge Zionist. When even he's going to Kamala and being like, might want to tone the Liz Cheney thing down. Why don't you, do a speech with Elizabeth Warren? Not that she's some flaming leftist, but to someone like Bill Kristol, I don't want to confuse that with the actor. It's not the actor. It's, of course, these are the things that happen, right? You cannot say you run a flawless campaign when you're campaigning with a person who has no clout, a person whose name recognition is actually more negative than positive. When you hear about Cheney, I think about the first two things that come to my mind when I think about Liz Cheney. Lost her own election, okay, so she can't even guarantee you her own state.
In Wyoming.
Right?
Where her dad was from, right?
Was the vice president and a legend.
Should have been a shoo-in.
Should have been, right? So, and that brings me to the second thing that I think about Liz Cheney, your dad, who tortured people, who there are still people in Guantanamo Bay. Like, this is my association, okay, when I think about who the Cheneys are and the Democrats running with these kind of people, going on a view. Like, I can't wait to put Republicans in our office while at the same time you're trying to sell the hysteria of Project 25 when you've brought all the people that enact and embody that kind of language into your campaign. Those are my first thoughts.
Keto, we heard about a lot of this, like, kind of her pandering as well. It kind of seemed like she had an accent every other day, and I feel like, that makes people feel like you don't take them seriously, or you're making fun of them. What were your thoughts sort of on that, and just the campaign, the funds, all that in general?
Well, I think in many ways, especially as we were talking about it, that some people would try to say that she was code switching, but to me, it was that she was trying to adapt to situations in a room because she got told to, right? And that the American people, regardless of how people feel, like people can be stupid, but can also be incredibly insightful. And on a smaller scale, we kind of see this through how communities can band together and predict kind of what's going to happen next. Like humans are really kind of uncanny at this. We beat AI every single time. Like nothing can really match the human brain. And yet, here is a person who is currently running the country. That's undeniable. Harris is in the second highest office in the entire country as it's supposed to be represented. And we can't really figure out, like, what did she do during the 4 years that she was vice president, much less saying and promising. I mean, and this is the great Democrat lie. That's saying, like, oh, I'm not capable of doing this now. And she was an exemplification of that, because if you're not capable of doing it now, why should people vote for you? How is it mystically on January 20th you're going to figure out how to do all of this if you're not capable of now being in the second highest position of office? And the second thing is, particularly because of the way social media has contracted the ways we communicate with each other, what we were seeing was her lack of authenticity. She was not sincere in any way, form, or fashion, that she was being told what to do, but that she actually had no spine of her own to combat the status quo. And the great American lie is that we are all rugged individuals. We don't listen to nobody. And that's the appeal of Trump at the end of the day, because he really is a rugged individualist. Nobody can tell him what to do. And all Harris proved is that she could be infinitely told what to do, where to go, how to move. You don't care about this now, you care about this. And we I saw that too. She went to a black church, and it's like, who are you right now? You, when you ran all those years ago, never wanted to be black. You were very much distancing yourself from blackness, and yet going to a church pretending you grew up in black churches. That's
Joy cometh
fake
in the
as fuck.
morning. That hurts you when you say that.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And then now with instances about, like, oh, where did the money go? And I won't say that's particular to her campaign, because Tanky has talked about this multiple times, particularly when corporations were classed as citizens with the ability to vote with their dollars, and that the United States, since it's really since, I mean, way far into the 80s, but also in the Revolutionary War, the United States has been in debt. Wars are very costly. Countries start borrowing against it. And that the United States has not ever not been in debt since then. I mean, the debt right now is at, gosh, I want to say, I know it's in the trillions of dollars, and it's only grown since every year since, which is why
It's
the
in like
United States
30
also has
trillion
to raise.
now.
Yeah,
This is
Already.
it's
something that
incredibly high, and it's accelerated into the trillions. I mean, really, what I saw the best representation of it is that $60 billion each day is how much the United States national debt is growing, by $60 billion every single day. So sure, I can blame Harris and the campaign, but the fact is nobody knows how to run the government in a way that won't eliminate debt. But when you're a United States citizen, you recognize that debt's going to Ukraine, to Israel. Like, you never ever gave that money to us. It's going to corporations so that they can continue to put mold in our food and stop all those regulations that meant we could be assured of clean air, clean food, clean water. So yeah, she lost like $20 million somewhere along the way, but when we see what she spent the money on, that's American largesse. We see it happen on an individual scale where people are like, well, I'm going to buy a car I can't afford, because the American system is built off of debt.
she was wearing $200,000 necklaces, on some of these campaign rallies. So I mean, where the money went, that's not hard to figure out. But I mean, to your point about American largesse and the debt, this was something that Putin was talking about in a speech that he gave last week. Like, the Americans just print money out of the air, and they're able to do this because their economy, their currency is the global standard. What happens when other countries start taking it? That's when the inflation will really kick in and people will really truly know how bad it is. And this goes back to one of the things that was working for Trump throughout the campaign. We called it throughout the campaign season 5% truth, you know? Blah blah. Blacks are taking your job. There's millions of immigrants coming across the border. Raping old, innocent people. Also, we're really close to World War III, right? Like it's 95% drivel, and then you slide that 5% of truth in, and it's like, well, he's telling the truth about this. I don't think the other things are true, but maybe he's telling the truth about more than I think. Maybe the problem is with me, right?
Yeah, and you could see JD Vance emulate that too, because he's talking about the housing crisis. The housing crisis
Hmm.
is very real. Americans can't afford to live in homes, whether renting or much less buying a home. And yet, JD Vance is like, and why? Because immigrants are stealing all the homes.
Right.
What?
Meanwhile, the Democrats just straight up gaslight you and tell you the economy's better than it's ever been, and Bidenomics, right? And so, like, people are looking at their material conditions not get better, and they're like, "What? How is this happening?" But as to where the money goes, right? It's the Democrats don't understand how to campaign anymore. They have become so in love with celebrity over substance that they had a whole campaign. We were joking about this the other day, when we were going over the Trump's America First plan. Like when you go to the website and it's got all of his little policy points, as horrible as they are, they're click. The website is very easy to navigate. It's like, oh, if you want to see our views on China, click this. If you want to see what our views are on immigration, click that, right? Whereas when you went, and we talked about this at the beginning of the campaign, if you went to the Harris campaign, all they had was a donate, give me money. Like, I mean, as times being as bad as they are, you know, the fact that all I, throughout my, at least living in DC, right? My YouTube political ads. I probably got 5 political ads from the Democrats for every one I got from the Republicans, which again is wasted money. What is the point of doing all this demographics spying, right, with the metadata and having no idea that, baby girl, it's not going to happen for me. I'm not voting for you. And I'm not voting for Trump either, right? Though I will vote, right? And so, like, you're utilizing it's just spin, spin, spin. You don't win Texas because you pay Beyonce $2 to $5 million to come up and be like, as a mother, I support, right? Like you have to like go to your rising star in Texas, go to a yeah, who knows where stock is today, but like a Beto O'Rourke, a Democratic operative who has pull and ties to the community, and you really go there for several weeks, and you go to every small town in Texas with Beto O'Rourke. This is Beto, my Texan friend. We just here to listen to you. I'm not even gonna speech. I'm just gonna go here and I'm gonna do a town hall, and y'all tell me what's wrong here, how the government can make it better, right? You go to all of these places. You don't you let these people, it's exactly the opposite of what she did. Instead of I'm speaking, you let the constituents speak. Whether or not you're going to do these things, you have to, at least that's the rule of politics, right? You give the game away if you're saying, I'm not even going to listen to constituents. And it was just that over and over again. The first time you do it, it's kind of cute, right? Like, excuse me, I'm speaking modalities, right? But like, right? But like the third or fourth time, like now we know it's just canned. We
Yeah.
talk about is
But
yeah,
it's
go
also
ahead.
because, I mean, she leaned so hard into identity politics, and we've been, yeah, the hill I'm going to die on. Identity politics are meaningless. Anybody anything that a human is capable of across the world, you are capable of. Anything that a human has done, we are capable of. And we have to realize that regardless of our ethnicity, our race, our religion. And that is what the world mobilizing in the way it is proving to us. And yet the Democrats just triple down on identity politics. And when I say identity politics, I don't even mean race, ethnicity. I mean even the political spectrum, where people are doubling down on being Democrats, being Republicans, even being like, what is leftist? Okay, first of all, humans don't even exist like that. We exist on a multitude of spectrums that if y'all talk to people, we would recognize that there are shared issues. And I only say that because I've literally seen Lil Tanky in a Lyft talk to a Republican driver who's like, immigrants are destroying our country. And here he is breaking down like, okay, I know. What do you care about? Found out that you cared about jobs and housing. And then broke it down like, well, do you know like the person where state are you from? Oh, Florida. Did you know like he actually eliminated the opportunity for you to get better housing, and broke it down. And then by the end, the dude wasn't even thinking about Republican, but he was thinking about policy. He was thinking about his material conditions. And Kamala Harris was like, ignore your material conditions. No, Bidenomics is working. Inflation has gone down. And yet people are going to the grocery store, literally sharing receipts on social media from their 2020 grocery bill versus their 2024. And
Let me
so seeing that
yeah.
gaslighting is just nuts.
Let me ask you this, Keita. We saw these fires in Hawaii. We saw Hurricane, what was it? Helena, whatever it was, and Milton ravage much of America, much of the lower eastern, southern areas of America. We saw that the Biden campaign. That's good, right? Hiding, you like that? The Biden Harris team basically was like, here's $750, and there's going to be funding out here somewhere in the future. Maybe, hopefully, $750 can hold you over until you finish writing your grant process and get it stamped. Yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. This is what people sound like in our comments when they're like, well, he said he's going to give more.
Yeah,
Okay,
and he
can we
gave
get
more
the
to
numbers on
Zelensky.
that?
Oh, we found another 400 million for Kyiv. Bro, do you understand how damn tone deaf that is when people's whole house? And speaking of tone deaf, and I'll give it right back. The thing that Democrats do, right? They have these things where they distill whole campaigns into one word. And I know somewhere there's an AI that's writing this, or, Clinton's was change. Change. Obama's was hope. Right? Change and hope, powerful, powerful one word indicators. Kamala's was joy. It does not get more tone deaf. Who the fuck got joy right now? Everybody's bills is up. You got relatives that are sick. You working 2 and 3 jobs. Student loans is on your ass, right? I mean, it comes off a little Marie Antoinette, right? Let them eat cake. I don't have a lot of joy. Certainly no joy that the government is responsible for.
Yeah. So Keita, same question. What are your thoughts on the response of domestic policies affecting the Harris-Walz campaign?
No, and I think like this is why I say identity politics won't save us, because the South continues to get classified as ignorant, as backwards. I mean, in many ways, the way the rest of the country talks about the South, particularly the rural South, is the same way Americans talk about countries overseas. You can see it on a small, once again,
that part.
The imperial boomerang, the way you treat people here is the way you treat them across the world. And this is why the United States needs to make reparations on a multitude of scales, domestically first, and then I will trust that you are really making reparations across the globe. But the thing is for the United States, like Harris and Waltz. So the South gets abandoned in a lot of situations because it's assumed that they're hypocrites. I mean, the vitriol that
because Democrats don't know how to talk to them. There hasn't been a Democrat that knew how to talk to the South since Bill Clinton.
Yeah, but I mean, and I'm saying this as Harris Waltz are also emblematic of the people who say that they are Democrats, right? Because the vitriol that I saw about North Carolina being devastated after Hurricane Helene was, well, y'all should build better houses. Like they build sticks for some reason. That, and not even taking into account that Appalachia is supposed to be the safest place in the United States. That it speaks to how terrible climate change is. But that Democrats were like, well, I'm washing you out because you're red. And how these identity politics create these divisive lines, but the South is a rich, like the rest of the country is rich, like the rest of the global is rich, and a background and a culture and a history, that there are pockets of people who are absolutely trying to fight for minimum wage, trying to fight for investments in clean water. But the reality is that they're having to fight against decades. I mean, Lincoln wanted to break the South economically. And so when we go all the way back there, and then we can understand today, Harris Waltz are carrying that legacy, that the South is not worth it, that they're economically bereft, that they're morally bereft in some ways. And so you see them get washed out, that it took Harris a while to go visit them, that she promised them FEMA aid, and then FEMA's like, I don't know what money she was talking about because FEMA's got no money. And that North Carolina could see that. Plus the fact that there were rumors that FEMA, when they were filming the devastation from North Carolina, there were rumors that anybody with a Trump sign could not be on camera. And then what does that do? Because the reality is the political situation is there was a natural disaster caused by America's policies globally that's creating worsening climate change. But these people immediately need help. And on the heels of that, instead, Harris, who we have to remember is the vice president, decided to agree with Congress and Biden to send more money to Israel instead of helping
That's
the
the
billions of,
priority.
yeah.
I mean, but and to the point again, right? Not understanding how the South works, right? The Democrats, with their models, which they believe are 100% absolute, they look at the models and they say, well, we're not going to win the South. So they don't try. They don't try. They concede that these states are forever going to be red. And it's ridiculous. Like, again, right? I think you don't win Georgia by paying Quavo $1 million to half-ass rap, and then 2 million a Megan Thee Stallion to come out and twerk, maybe 500,000 for Lil Jon. That's not what you do. You go to Stacey Abrams and you humble yourself and you ingratiate her into your campaign because you understand it was only through her effort and the effort of those working with her that they were able to turn a Georgia blue. But it was just a deeply unserious thing, right? Oh, it's a party in Georgia. Yeah. Like, I'm like, is this the Freaknik or is this like a presidential campaign serious candidate? Right? Like, it's so condescending at a point where it's, well, black people love rap. Ooh, let's get us a Migo. Yeah, Lil Jon. Like, it's so condescending that you end up with black Republicans, going out and giving all of these speeches about like, wow, we just could not get on board with the Harris campaign, Again, her not understanding Southern culture, and assuming that just as a woman who is for now identifying as black, and talking about reproductive justice. I think one of the cruelest things that I heard said about her, again, this was the black woman Republican candidate. I cannot remember her name, but she was an operative, black Republican operative. And she said, imagine the audacity of Kamala Harris to come to Georgia and talk about reproductive rights when she's not even a mother, right? Like, because again, these are the kind of things that conservative black people in the South are going to think about, and
But also,
yeah, go ahead.
no, it just requires conversations because, and I remember, because Lil Tanky, one of your friends, had talked about this. And that friend does union organizing on a scale that's incredible, quite frankly. But one of the things that that person had pointed out was you have to figure out like kind of what levels people are at, and then figure out who is the best person equipped to talk to them. I can admit this for myself that I am not always the best person to talk to these like super alt-right Republicans. I've said this before, violence is always on the table. And when it gets to a certain place, shit might pop off. But like Tanky is really great at having those conversations. And so what we realize is not just that Harris and Waltz don't have the capability of speaking to the broad swath of the American public and the ways that the culture has developed in different regions of the country as well, but that they also politically had nobody who could talk to them. Because, like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like,
No
in many
ground game.
ways, yeah, people don't understand. Maybe they don't understand it as vocally as we're vocalizing it here. But this is also speaking to Harris Waltz's capabilities as political leaders. You don't know how to build in house who can talk to Pennsylvania's voters and understand what's going on with them, who can talk to North Carolina and Georgia, who in our political party or who can we tap to be in our political party to really help us campaign this way. And that she was not capable of it, yet I'm supposed to trust as an average American voter that she can run an entire country where we need her to build a cabinet, where we need her to have these conversations with different now cultural countries across the globe. Like, at no point did she show she could run a campaign. And so then the logical sentiment is she was never designed to win that campaign. She was designed to make all that money.
Meanwhile, they're saying, like you said, we ran a flawless campaign, right? It's so tone deaf. The Democrats don't even understand as a party, right? So this was the other
See,
thing.
I would contend that it's only tone deaf if we take into account our goals. If their goal was to go in and make money, then yeah, flawless. You made that dough.
Right, if that was your objective, right? But like the Democratic Party is in for a huge a reckoning as far as the national. Again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. The Democrats are in for a rude awakening as many of these demographics that they take for granted, they're losing. Like, look at California's map. In 15 years, California's going to be red again. That is 40 electoral votes that the Democrats take for granted. And when it happens, everybody's hand's going to be up in the air. Oh my God, how did this happen? Right? When you can look at the trends right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, being connected to what America and Americans are feeling is just something that Democrats don't do. They have been so deeply removed from the people they are meant to govern. They just don't understand things. For example, you have nothing more than to go to YouTube and put in any video game review right now or any movie review right now, and everything you're going to hear is, this game sucks, it's too woke, the wokeism is, right? On every movie review, on every video game review. So we're already on a backlash cycle, right, against social justice, right? And the fact that, like, the Democrats are associated, which was truly hilarious, the Democrats are associated with progressivism. You know what I'm saying? They're associated with social justice, right? And this is what you're getting with the symbol of this identity of, oh, I care about, reproductive justice. Oh, I care about women's rights. Oh, I'm a Black woman, right? Like, just trying to tap into all of these things. The problem with symbol is mushy technique. Because so now everything that people hold against all of these things, right? The whole concept of DEI, right? Which is so funny because American culture changes extremely slowly. And this is what liberals don't understand, right? They wake up and they believe something new one day and they believe everybody else believes exactly like they believe. But America don't move like that, some very good friends of mine that y'all may know and I are engaging in this experiment where we're going back and watching all of these old sitcoms from different eras, and we sat down and we watched All in the Family, and it's all the same shit. I mean, all of these guys, Archie Bunker sounds like Sean Strickland, like, oh, it's too many gay people, it's too many Black people, it's too much, back then they just called it affirmative action. I mean, these are literally the exact same conversations that white people are having in a huge percentage of the country right now. And they see any little bit of change that's been forced or mandated or whatever as the exact reason why nothing is working. So again, you have the Republicans selling a message. Nothing is working, and we know why. We're not going to give you anything, but nothing is working and we know why, right? And then you have this message with the Democrats, everything is fine. Everything is fine. If it's not fine, it's you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so like the people that aren't even necessarily inclined to want to see themselves as Republican or maybe even right wing, material conditions controls everything. When you realize that my life isn't working, I'm not making the money that I wanted to, I'm not getting the promotions that I'm meant to, right? You have to say, well, someone is to blame. And the Republicans are really good at giving you people to blame. The Democrats say everything is fine because both of the parties from a fundamental level don't want to give you anything. You know what I'm saying? But the Republicans, at least, they're the rich guy that steals 98 hamburgers and goes to the middle class guy and he says, hey, that poor guy wants to steal one of your hamburgers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like that's the whole thing. The Democrats say everybody's got hamburgers. We all got hamburgers. You ain't got enough hamburgers? What do you mean? You know? And so that's a consistent problem. The Democrats are going to have to reckon with how do they make a connection with the American people again. I don't think this is a new problem. I just think it's been exasperated in these approaches to the presidencies. I think again, Kamala Harris making Hillary Clinton a major advisor, making Liz Cheney. I'm not trying to be mean. These are two white women more famous for losing than any other thing that they've done in their lives, right? And then when you go to Bill Clinton, at least someone who normally is good at talking, who is good at working with audiences, you send them to Michigan. I mean, like one of the most notorious Zionists in the American system, and all he does is he goes to the Muslims and he's like, yeah, I mean, tough titty, but it was Galilee and Judea first. Like this ain't gonna help people vote for you.
And this is why I contend getting enough votes, we have to consider it may not have been the ultimate objective of the Democratic Party or Harris Waltz. That if everybody, not everybody, but if enough swell of her backing are saying she ran a flawless campaign, then I have to see, what do you consider flawless? Getting a lot of money, going into debt, and then basing everything around failed identity politics. Okay, that's flawless to you. Cool, cool, cool.
He
Then
lost
I
by
understand
5 million
exactly where we
votes.
stand and I move the fuck on.
I want to talk a little bit more about the celebrity thing because I think there's a huge difference, and I think this goes to your point sort of about the enthusiasm surrounding Donald Trump versus the enthusiasm surrounding Kamala Harris. You don't have to ask anybody if they support Trump. You usually already know because they said it 4 or 5 years ago. But with Kamala Harris, there was a few people, a few celebrities, I think, that it just looked like they were forced kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, forced kicking and screaming to, endorse Kamala, Taylor Swift, LeBron James. These people,
Cardi B.
put their Cardi B, I mean, and many, many, many more, said that they were, worried about Palestine. They were worried about what was going on in the world geopolitically. And then right before the election, they switched, which, hurts their own sort of reputation. I think the young kids say, stand on business. It's not something that these celebrities were doing. And there was two in particular I just wanted to mention that we featured on our Instagram at Inner City Left, and that's Mark Ruffalo and Adam Conover. Mark Ruffalo was at a fundraiser, and he basically was like, we want 50 people, 50 Muslims and 50 Jews from Arizona signed a letter saying that we want Kamala Harris to be the president of the United States. And she's the only one who has differing language around this. And this is how low the bar had became. It was just differing language. Then he came out again and said, please, 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 I'm begging you, with some woman who claims to be Palestinian. I don't know. Please don't vote for Jill Stein. No, she won't win. She's lying to you. And then same thing with Adam Conover from Adam Ruins Everything. I don't know if you've seen that. I'm so sorry, but Jill Stein is just not going to win. She's not a grifter. And that worked. Look, they spent their money right because no one voted for Jill Stein. Got less than 1% of the vote. And they spent all this money and all this effort just to burn Jill Stein, even though it didn't matter at all. The second thing I wanted to say too, and you mentioned it, you can draw a little map kind of around the screen. Like if it's a little screen, this is America right here. You can draw a little map right here where it's all Kamala, and everything there is Trump. Every single other state is Trump. And I think it goes again to the point of the real disconnect. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I'll ask this for, I'll start with you, Keita, and then Tanky, you can pick it up. Right now, the Democrats are in a lot of hot water when it comes to corruption. I think Eric Adams is the biggest, but you have more and more Democrats falling to this. Trayon White, who is Ward 8 councilman, is marred in controversy. I keep mentioning this, but he's literally being investigated for corruption charges. But you can't vote for anybody else here in Washington, D.C. It's all Democrats. So he gets to move on. He gets to be the ward councilman again, or the ward rep. And, the Democrats just seem to do corruption really, really well. What are your thoughts? Keita, you can jump in, or Moshe, either one.
Yes, corruption is one of the most difficult political issues, and it's not limited to the United States. It's just that United States economic system makes makes really the United States a perfect breeding ground for corruption. We've been aware of this since the founding fathers and wondering where all of this money that the US had to borrow to fight Britain came from. That people realize that they can hide money really well. This is also why I think when we were talking about politics you have to do really complicated math in determining across the US, like what's going to be okay? What is the line that you will cross? What is the line that you absolutely will not cross to vote for somebody? But I think this also speaks to, if corruption is so endemic across United States politics, then the problem is the system. Like, the system bends towards politics. When people talk about the deep state, they always think it's like, oh, if I could just pick one person to blame, take out that one person. No, systems start bending towards all the individuals who comprise them. And the United States system absolutely bends towards corruption and bends towards fear-based politics too. I don't blame what people do when they're scared. I don't know, and nobody across the world can know what an individual is capable of when they're scared and terrified. We always try to truncate it to it's fight or flight, and then now people are realizing, oh, humans are a spectrum, and we're capable of a lot more reactions than fight or flight. We're capable of a multitude of reactions. And then that's kind of what happens here. It's frustrating because at the same time, as Lil Tanky talked about, we're looking at our material conditions. If there's all of this room for corruption, at what point will somebody in the political stream decide that belongs to the people? Or at what point will the people collectively decide that money is ours, we're taking it? France has provided really great examples of this. There are protests across the globe that provide really great examples of this. And so right now, we just have to keep reading reports and stories about, oh, there's all this corruption. None of the laws bend towards eliminating that corruption. Nobody gets punished for it. In fact, it's just like the government instead takes a cut. Oh, you were doing business in my city. You know, you owe me a cut of it. Instead of being like, we're actually going to make you give all of that money back because you stole it from the people, and you have to also make additional restitution. That doesn't exist in the American so-called justice system. And that it's here to punish individual level corruption. I mean, the biggest theft happens is wage theft, and corporations never get punished for that. So how do I expect politicians who are setting these policies and laws to punish themselves? They won't even let the American people vote for their raises. They get to vote for whether they get more money each year. And I think that is absolute corruption.
Yeah, I mean, I think about corruption the same way I think about performance enhancing drugs, right? And what I mean by that is you don't get caught because you do them. You get caught because you get sloppy, because you've been doing them so long that you know what I'm saying? That's corruption, right? This is why the Democrats get caught. I don't think the Republicans are any less corrupt, right? By any stretch of the imagination. It's just they have bent the judicial system to such a degree that the people that enact their laws are also the people that adjudicate these kind of conflicts, right? They're like, I put this judge in. I understand exactly what his views are. The Democrats they haven't had the ability to do that in quite some time because they continue to lose in the executive conflicts. They continue to lose to the Republicans. But also, another thing that works against them is this nobody that lovable loser. See, I don't understand that. And I think on a very real level, Americans don't either. Americans want to win. And they want to win decisively and with great power. Right? The Democrats win. And then, I tried to get health care fixed. Oh, I couldn't do it. I tried to get pot legalized. Oh, I couldn't do it. It's the lovable loser. I tried to get Roe v. Wade over the finish line. I couldn't do it, right? Meanwhile, you're looking at Trump again, a despisable, despicable, incredibly corrupt, broken human being. And three things that have already happened, right? Word on the street is he's already told Bibi Netanyahu, you need to have his shit wrapped up by the time I step in, player. Like, you know what I'm saying? Harris didn't say that.
I got sorry, go ahead.
Already told Zelensky, hey, you need to look at what you can live with because we wrapping this shit up, player, right? Like, already has a envoy in Lebanon, trying to find out, how that can be resolved. Like, so again, right, this person who is one of the most right-wing presidents I've had in my lifetime is somehow still to the left of the chosen Harris positions.
Let me ask you this, and this is my last two things. I got one for you, Tanky, and I got one for you, Keita. It's looking like 12 to 14 million people stayed home, maybe 11 of those Democrats. What does that mean? What is that? Do you think that those voters are up for grabs? What do you think they were looking for? Why didn't they vote their party? Any thoughts on the people who just literally stayed home?
I felt like they didn't take this seriously. Right? I mean, the language of the Democrats is just so damn condescending. It's insulting. What was the theme, right? Not when you get away from the joy and you get to the deep believers. Remember the assignment. Know the assignment. That is fucking insulting. I am not in high school. Yeah, I don't have an assignment. Yeah, it's paternal. Very paternalistic language. Know the assignment. It's just that for me, that's an immediately disrespectful turnoff.
And this is my last one here, and then I'll let y'all wrap up. There's a little saying, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but Keita, you may have heard it. You scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. There was a lot of conversation, white girl tears, of course, everywhere. We were drowning, swimming through these white women tears after the Trump win, but you hear them saying, all these Latinos, now we got to get them out. You shouldn't have voted. All these Arabs. Sorry, I can't care about Palestine anymore. I'm going straight to get some Starbucks.
You proved that already when you voted for Kamala, that you didn't care. Like when the most radical thing you do every 4 weeks is vote. You're like, I'm not going to be involved for the next 4 months, or 4 years, or whatever.
You need a mental health break day.
You already wasn't involved, player.
Yeah, you're not. None of your family are under siege. They're not in the global South, being ravaged by capitalism and white supremacy. Yeah, so I just don't know if you caught that or what your thoughts were, sort of just on, you scratch a liberal and fascist bleeds.
I mean, yeah, I think it's shorthand for a lot of the trends that we see, quite frankly, right? So even taking it out of identity politics, because if your driving impetus is to protect yourself at the expense of everybody else, then yeah, that will immediately, on a long enough timeline and road, that will lead to fascism. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that you care about is protecting your own rights. You don't see yourself as an individual. You don't see yourself as part of society, much less a community. And quite frankly, we see this consistently with white voters. They tried talking to Black people. Now they're going after the Latinos. They were definitely coming after the Muslims. I mean, it was like, okay, but let's see this is where I do like looking at identity. Let's see what your demographic is doing. And overwhelmingly, you voted as a bloc for Trump. And so what then is getting protected? well, we know, as Tanky pointed out, Trump and JD Vance are saying, I know what the problem is, and it's immigrants, it's Black people, it's Muslims, it's everybody else but the way the American system runs. And so we have to be mindful of that on an individual level. And I mean, in many ways, too, it starts with that othering. Even the way people came out this election to say, oh, they're not real leftists, or we don't need leftists, or this is, and I'm like, look, it doesn't, the word itself, meaningless in the scheme of things. At the end of the day, do you care about people? Do you believe that every individual deserves human rights, regardless of whether you hate them? I mean, this is what we saw in California too, because we were talking about, like, why did they vote for slavery? And what do we understand about the way slavery is codified in the United States? It says, well, if you committed a crime, well, people who commit a crime are assumed to be guilty of that crime immediately. That means that there's not an awareness of the way the justice system works in the United States, or how its racist policies ensures that Black people and Latinos and Native Indigenous peoples are overwhelmingly incarcerated. And so inadvertently they're saying, yeah, slavery is okay as long as you're a bad person. And this is why we talk about it's connected to why there's an increasing police force, because more and more people are going to get criminalized. And if we don't question that, then it's going to lead to fascism. And we're seeing it in pockets of the world, that we're seeing it. And we're seeing it because fear-based politics can't win either. So if you're always scared of, hey, what's going to happen to me? Why won't I get food or a house? Instead of moving towards everyone deserves a home. There are enough homes that everybody in the United States can have one. I actually honestly feel this about across the globe, that if we all mobilized across the globe, and yet it is the easiest thing to say and the most difficult thing to do. But yeah, scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds, you will always have to contend with, am I protecting myself, or am I protecting the larger society and community that I come from? And then do I continue to expand my definition of society, community, and home to include as many people as possible?
I'm gonna say this and then I'm out with it. All of these people, all of these liberals talking about the work that they're not about to do, which by the way is work they really never did anyway. I gotta say, they're in for a rude awakening, because I think they're gonna find that over the next 4 years, the people that expose themselves as willing to put up with genocide so long as it got them a Democrat in the office, they're gonna find themselves excluded from these places. Real leftists are not gonna coalition with you. We now see that you can be bought. And that's
D side
dangerous.
is not a red line.
What can
So
we
what? So
gain
what?
from
What use are
coalitioning with
you?
each other? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I want to give a shout out. No, go ahead, Keita,
Oh,
please.
no, I'm going to say that if genocide is not a red line, too, then the logical conclusion is you will throw everyone under the bus but yourself. And I don't know how every individual white person identifies, but they've already proven time and time again, we're all expendable as long as a white supremacist machine can continue to benefit.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to our podcast listeners. Can't see our lovely faces or Keita's lovely
We resist.
profile. Yeah, profile pic here, profile image. I want to give a shout out to y'all. We're on Patreon. We getting Patreon members. People are hitting us up. You know, we're doing big things. I mean, let's be honest. We wouldn't have been able to do all the upgrades and do all the things without y'all. I want to give a shout out to our patrons as I bring this up. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see. Big shout out to Samantha, Dumpy, Tom LeBeau, Turn Leftist, WZ22, Nicole Hedges, Jay Goulart 94, No Ground, RK, Paula, Alyssa, Lauren, Suzette, Dennis. Appreciate y'all. You can be a member as well. Hit up the link below. Subscribe on YouTube. You can also stream my music. I mean, TMK, everywhere you find music, as well as Lil Tanky, everywhere you find music. Fables, Foibles, and Other American Sins. That is Amoja's poetry book, out and available. Follow Keita. They are now on IG. Don't be weird. And final thoughts. I just want to say also, thank y'all so much. What a great way to spend a horrible election. Just being with two very well-read, very talented intellectuals, and so on and so forth. Any final thoughts before we slide out
Time
here?
to get back to geopolitics, the shit that really matters. If you understand what's happening in the world, understanding what happens in America is actually very simple. And
I
we
was
told
gonna
y'all months ago
say,
the Democrats
because
were
we
gonna
watched it
lose.
happen in the UK, Italy, all of these countries progressively embracing fascist
Democrats are
leaders.
trending
Ugh.
rightward all across the world. Don't be fucking surprised. Pay attention.
Also, talk
Yeah.
to your neighbors, talk to your friends. If you have the space for that, I guess. I don't actually give a shit. Like I know who I'm going to talk to. I hope you recognize the people that you can trust and love and build community with, because you still need people at the end of the day. Okay, we have to exist as a group.
Emoji Little Tanky Sumler, Key to the Muscle, and me and TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' in the city left.